I'm a climate activist from Uganda, and I've been doing activism for over a year now. And as a climate activist, it's very important for people to receive the right information when it comes to climate change, to receive the right facts when it comes to climate change. And I'll share some of the ways that we can ensure that people get the right information about the climate crisis. One of the first ways is education. I come from a country whereby very few people understand what climate change really means, so they will not even know if the information that they are reading is true or not. So they have to first understand what the climate crisis really is and what brings about climate change and the impacts that are followed by climate change. So I think it is important to ensure education of different people about the climate crisis, because at this point many people don't even know about its existence. So how will they be able to understand whether the facts are true or not, yet they have no clue about what climate change really is? So we need to go back to the basics and teach the people and reach out in schools and educate everyone to understand the issue of climate change and how it affects people's livelihoods. And then the other way is to go to the grassroots. Many times we see journalists, they talk about activism in other countries or how the people are impacted in other countries. And it's sad to see that most of the times they reach out to people who are not even in those countries. So those people just give estimated information. But then it would be great to see the journalists go to the roots, to the actual roots, to the ground, and see what is happening in those areas and interview the people in those areas so that they get first-hand information. Because when it comes to climate change, there is no room for second-hand information. We need first-hand information from the
Absolutely.
communities that are affected the most. If if a hurricane hits a place maybe like Mozambique, like what happened in 2019, the typhoon the cyclone, sorry, in 2019, and the floods in East Africa, go to those places, reach out to the people in those places and get the actual information from those people. That will enable you to get the right information that you will spread on the internet. Because before you actually spread information on the internet, you have to first collect it. So we need more first-hand information in the fight against climate change and the fight against disinformation. And then this also goes to the internet users on different social media platforms. We need to examine the news sources that we follow. We need to examine the sources of information that we look up to, because we have seen some of the news sources, they give very authentic information about the facts of climate change, about communities or countries that are being affected by climate change, about the investments in the fossil fuel industries. So we need to ensure that the news sources that we are following are actually giving the right information, because by the time you share information, you've got it from a source. So now is the time to scrutinize the sources of information of climate change,
Mhm.
because we can only share it if it's from the right source. So you have to examine and check the sources and see that every source where you get information is authentic enough. And then the other thing, we would love to see more projects of reporting about the communities that are affected the most. I had already talked about this, but let me bring it back again, because it is one thing to interview the activists, because most of them, yeah, they will talk about what they have seen in the news or what they have heard in the news, but then they have not been affected directly. So going to the ground and interviewing those very people who have been hit by the floods, who have been hit by the droughts, who have been hit by the cyclones, will help get first-hand information about how people are affected. Many times, the information ends on people saying that maybe 10,000 people were displaced or 100 people were killed, but they never get to understand what follows after that disaster. How are those people's lives affected after the disaster? Do they have food to eat? Can the children still go back to school? I think it is very important not to just look at the primary effects of climate change, but also look at the secondary effects that follow after the primary effects. But we can only get these secondary effects by going to the roots of those communities, to those people that are affected the most, and bringing their stories to the table. And then the other thing is, when you notice and realize that the information that has been put on the internet is wrong, then don't engage in it. Because when you engage in it, the people who follow you are going to see that. The people who follow the ones who follow you, they are going to see that. Because the moment you share it, that means you're sharing it to literally a larger group of people. You may have like 1,000 followers, but if like 50 people retweet what you have engaged with, that means it's going to reach out to like 500,000 people. So do not engage information when you know that it's true. If it is possible, actually block that information or even report the account that is spreading wrong information, because we cannot risk having wrong information in the fight against the greatest threat facing humanity right now. And then the last thing I would say is spread the right information, because many times we just stop at reading what has been given, what has been talked about, what the scientists are saying, but then we should normalize actually sharing that right information to our people, to our friends, and to our platforms, because when we share that right information, that means that we are helping more people have access to the correct information about the climate crisis. We need to share the correct and the right information from authentic sources as much as possible. Because if we embed the internet and how should I say, if we fill the internet with the right information, one way or another, we shall absorb the wrong information.